I saw a movie, 2001 Space Odyssey, and that just changed my life.
Every year, there is a newer term to kind of address. How has your understanding of responsible AI evolved?
So many people now have to use AI, and it touches their lives. So it's become a new problem.
Basically, the humans training the AI that need to kind of want responsible and fair AI.
I would much rather trust an AI who can do that and understands that it can do that and chooses not to do that. Big question here and big opportunity is in making open systems. It's so important that some of these large models are actually open, so we can do research on cutting edge models instead of something that was cutting edge 5 years ago.
Hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of the AIM Media House podcast Simulated Reality. Today we have with us Risto Miikkulainen.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Risto, for being here. Risto has been with Cognizant for a while now, and his research has been something that many peers have been discussing, and a lot of work has been done over a period of time. I just recently got a chance to also see that you've been on Lex Fridman, so quite the honor to host you on the podcast. So thank you so much for making the time.
My pleasure.
Before we start, I want our audience to know a little bit more about you and your journey in the field of AI and why were you so passionate about it? You know, whenever I've seen you speak and some of your interviews, I've seen that you're really into the subject and you are really passionate about it. You've been researching on the topic for a while. What is it that fascinates you? And
like many people who work in AI that are in my generation, I saw a movie, 2001 Space Odyssey, and that just changed my life. I wanted to build machines like HAL, but nice machines, not HAL that is schizophrenic or something. But that was really an inspiration that we could build a machine that would be intelligence, have a level of intelligence similar to humans, so you could have it as a companion, assistant, and an equal, basically. And it took a long time, of course, to get to the field and learn the ropes, and we are not quite there yet, but we are getting closer, much closer than I ever thought. I got my PhD in 1990 at UCLA in doing AI, natural language processing with neural networks at the time. And then I've been a professor at the University of Texas at Austin since then. And I worked on neural networks my whole career, but also with evolutionary computation, optimization, and discovery. And in 2015, Babak Hojat got in touch with me and was interested in using some of the technologies that we developed at UT Austin in real world that they had in this startup called Sentient. And I joined them, and we built several applications, made some progress in research, and Cognizant then acquired us in 2018, and we continued here. And now we are growing this lab by leaps and bounds now when AI actually exploded, and it turned out that we are right in the middle of it. The exciting opportunities that now exist beyond our wildest dreams. Yeah.
One of the things that you said struck me was that you mentioned you wanted AI to be a companion and equal. I remember a conversation I had with another leader a couple of days back, and I was trying to understand what is the difference between a co-pilot and a coding assist or a chatbot, right? One of the things that they mentioned was that with the advent of Gen AI and some of the things that are happening around it, they want AI to be someone who's a companion, right? Who's equal more than being someone who serves us, right? And that is an outlook which they are looking at. But considering the topic that we're talking about, we are going to talk about responsible AI and the notion of AI being equal to humans, right? We have seen remarkable changes since AI. First there's a term was coined, and over a period of time, there are a lot of things that have been evolved. And I have been, so I was a data scientist around 10, 12 years back, and I have been closely observing the space for a while now. And every year, there is a newer term to kind of address, right? Primarily the reason being that there is some evolution or other. So last 1.5 years it has been Gen AI. Before that, scalability became important, so MLOps. Before that, data engineers, founded a lot of significance for their roles. However, one thing that has remained very constant throughout is the responsible nature of it, considering the potential of what AI can do, right? Now, considering various evolutions and the latest advancements in the past couple of years, how has your understanding of responsible AI evolved? Was it the same 10 years before, or is it similar today? And what are your thoughts on
AI is really difficult to build. And initially it was just, nobody even had a clue that it might someday cause trouble because it was so hard to get it to do anything. And now, so this is relatively new that we have to actually worry about how people use AI and what effect it has. I mean, I was just recently in a panel with 5 people, and there was only one AI expert there. Somebody was from government, and somebody from healthcare. Another one was an artist, and so many people now have to use AI, and it touches their lives. So it's become a new problem entirely. We built this technology, and it actually is going to be out there in the world and change it. So what do we do with it? So it's still a little unclear what even responsible AI means, because at first it was just that your system is biased. It's treating people differently because of superficial reasons. And that's a very narrow definition or challenge. But I think we have an opportunity here, since AI is going to be everywhere in a society, to make the society better through AI. So we can make AI systems be aware of these issues: fairness, bias, various other aspects of it, and sustainability and all that. So it can be an engine for promoting equality, because it can be aware of what the challenges are and act accordingly. Even better than people. I mean, humans have their own agendas. They have limited knowledge of what's going on, and they make decisions based on the information. But AI can actually assimilate more information and be more objective in many cases than humans can. So there's an opportunity here. And that's what I want a responsible AI to be. Not just something that imposes restrictions on what we do with AI, how we deploy it, but something that goes beyond that. We'll have to build metrics on how to measure effects and responsibilities or harm. And then we take the AI to promote those good effects more than just preventing harm.
You have a lot more optimistic view on AI than most. One of the things that you mentioned in your previous answer is that you wanted humans to train, you train the AI, responsible AI, or AI to in itself understand bias, right? But at the same time, it's basically the humans training the AI that need to kind of want responsible and fair AI, right? There are always going to be factors or miscreants which do not want. The intention for building AI is different for different people, is what I'm trying to say. In that case, when AI becomes so ubiquitous, how do you kind of ensure that there is this responsibility that is ingrained in the systems that we are building and deploying, especially in very critical areas?
Now, of course, there will always be bad actors, and people will use AI in not so nice ways. It's like any other technology in that sense. But I think there's a really crucial point here that I want to make, is that currently there's a lot of effort in alignment, fine-tuning the AI systems, LLMs, for instance, so that they would never say anything bad, never tell anybody how to build a bomb or kill somebody or whatever bad actions there might be, that they are prevented from actually being able to execute something like that. And I don't think that's going to be good in long term. I would much rather trust an AI who can do that and understands that it can do that and chooses not to do that. So that there's a big difference in being capable and on top of it and recognizing the dangers, deciding that certain actions are good and others are not, but at least be aware of all of those possible options. And that kind of AI, then we have the challenge of actually instilling our values on the AI, like what do we actually believe is the right thing to do, but the AI can then carry that out because it understands the different values and different implications.
But AI is not built as a cohesive one AI, right? AI always exists in silos. Like there are different people who are building AI, while there is one AI which probably might be built for good. There is always probably another AI which is built which might not be good. So your idea of how AI should start understanding the good from the bad cannot be universal across all AI. Like AI is not one singular system; it's different systems. So, like, how do you envision this happening?
At least currently, when we are talking about LLMs, which is really the spearhead right now, you cannot really build a capable LLM unless you give it a lot of training data, basically all the written material that exists. So it should actually have this general world knowledge upon which you can then specialize it to something. It can be a math expert, coding expert, a philosophical reasoning expert, or maybe even some bad actor. But its foundation is still all of human experience that's expressed in the written media.
The point that you're trying to make is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to elaborate on it a little bit, is that currently when AI is being built, it is built on certain foundational models. Right. They are huge in nature, right? Yeah. Everything about it, the parameters, the size, the crunching power needed, etc. There might be a few AIs that can be built in silos probably, but if you are going to talk about AGI or really strong AI, which kind of change the world, or which if we reach the stage of AGI, then it is probably going to be built through some of these foundational models. In that case, right, it is being built currently by a few people, a few companies which have very corporate interests, right? I understand that in the end they want to make it available to a point where it democratizes the utilization, right? And enables everyone, all humans, to kind of make good decisions and intelligent decisions. But at the same time, the interests are very, very are with some common stakeholders, some few stakeholders, right? In this case, how do you see or envision responsible AI being built in a way that considers interests of everyone?
These sophisticated AI systems will most likely have to be built on foundational models. And that's what I meant also by training them with all the human written media. And in that sense, they would share the same kind of common knowledge. And then on top of that, you can make them specialized on something. Big question here and big opportunity is in making open systems. That, for instance, that we would actually have the code, the data, all the information about the model would be available. And there are a couple of attempts like that, open to a certain degree. Llama, for instance, is quite a bit more open than some of the others. And in academia also, and there is an effort to pool resources in academia so that it would be possible to train a model using similar resources as industries have been using. And then that would be an open for any scientist. And I think that is a really crucial effort, that if we build these models and they are closed and nobody can look at them and understand what's in there, what's happening, it's not going to carry us further. We can't build on it. If we have an open model that scientists everywhere can analyze and understand, they can look at their bias and fairness and other aspects of potential harm, and also the understanding. Do they actually understand the difference between right and wrong and good and bad? Those kinds of technologies can be developed if the models are open. So I'm not saying that some models can still be closed, and if they're really good at coding, for instance, people will use them. But I think for the research and these ethical issues, I think we do need open AI models.
That's an interesting point that you bring, right? And that was actually going to be my next question. While there is, government is always probably trying to play a role in terms of enabling rules for AI. Also, at the same time, there are researchers in the private sector that are always evolving and adapting to the newer changes that are coming and building LLMs that are more catered to business use cases or other use cases, right? What is the role of researchers, especially in this case? Right? You made a very important point that they can build more open source technologies which can be broken down. But apart from that as well, some of the existing large language models that are built by private sector, what is the role of researchers in terms of kind of breaking some of these down and ensuring that there is a safe use of LLM? And how do they enable that? Where does the funding come for it? Who are the interested parties? How do you kind of, after the research is done, how do you make sure that the result of those results is kind of percolates throughout these LLMs in the world and how we build it? So.
Yeah. Well, this is also another area which has developed very differently from the past, that there's one community of AI researchers and scientists, whether they are people in industry or whether they are in academia. They go to the same conferences. They publish papers on arXiv. And in 3 months now, pretty much, if you put a paper on arXiv, in 3 months, somebody has taken it and built on it and puts another paper on arXiv. If we can keep that going, that kind of a community that's openly discussing ideas, openly exchanging ideas, I think this is part of the reason why this change has happened so fast, because this has been a tremendous period of open exchange of ideas. Now, business interest can get in the way of that, but I think they can coexist. We can have this kind of open community and then have companies develop these specialized tools that other people can use. But the challenge is obviously there, that it could go the other way as well. And that's why it's so important that some of these large models are actually open. So we can do research on cutting edge models instead of something that was cutting edge 5 years ago, because we can't draw the right conclusions. And that is still a challenge. We don't have that many of these large language models that are completely open to researchers. And even if they're open, they still have to be run with hardware, and that's very costly. So that kind of infrastructure still needs to be built. But it is happening now. So there are consortia that are established in order to give people access to level of compute that they need in order to analyze these models and bring their science forward. So I'm optimistic about it, but it is still a delicate balance, and we'll have to see how it plays out. And that's in innovation in the Silicon Valley in general. That's always been the case, that people talk to each other and they move. It's just that in this particular area, it's been to the extreme. The same conferences, the same publication events, everybody knows what everybody else is doing. And it's been possible then to build very fast on innovation.
One of the things that we mentioned, is the collaborative aspect of it, and it's the same set of people coming to different communities coming to one conferences, and different stakeholders enabling conversations. It could be researchers, corporate interests, and this thing. One of my questions to you is, how receptive, in your experience, are big corporates in building a responsible AI, especially when it comes to something which probably works against monetization of the LLM, right? So we have seen some examples, without naming companies, of large scientists, famous scientists, AI scientists who are working on this thing, getting fired, or their laptops being taken away, or some of these things. Especially these are some of the things that have happened in Silicon Valley. As a leader within the industry, as a researcher who has been there for a while, and I'm really sorry, you're really optimistic about AI, and I'm trying to continuously play the devil's advocate, and I know that you are coming from, but you're the perfect person to ask this question. How do we, in this case, kind of address some of these issues?
Mm-hmm. Even if you're optimistic, you can't be naive. I mean, there are conflicting interests, and they sometimes flare out, these conflicts. There's tremendous grassroots push towards responsible AI, and that people who are the scientists and developers, they really want to make the world better. This has been always the case, and sometimes from the top, the business interests don't align, and not quite riots, but at least very strong groups have formed and voiced their concerns, and sometimes people will have to go and they're let go, and other times the company changes their policy and what they're working on. So I think this probably will continue. I mean, there are different interests. But as long as there's enough growth and we find new opportunities for AI and business opportunities as well, it is always better to invest in new technology and development and innovation and then reap the benefits of that, rather than try to put in restrictions and constraints so that you can't talk, you can't innovate basically, and you try to shelter or protect your innovation against competition instead of collaborating and building something even better. As long as that kind of attitude is kept in check, so we are all there's a rising tide, so it raise all boats, so we can actually make more progress and more money even by innovating than trying to protect and stifle innovation. It is people and it's interest, and there are many stakeholders. So I think it's going to be a constant, not quite battle, but checks and balances, and how things are going to progress. And it has to be, eventually, it has to make an economic impact, and these companies will have to survive. I mean, they have to make money. But now it looks like there is a lot of opportunity for that. I mean, just imagine how fast this has happened, and only a couple of years. Usually it takes years and years to build technology and take it and advance it and adopt it. Even like cell phones. I mean, how long did that take? Obvious technology, everybody should have it, but it took decades maybe. That is different. The speed is different. And that makes also these decisions, sometimes we stumble, sometimes we make mistakes. But fortunately, there are enough opportunities and areas and companies and academic researchers now that somebody will make progress and others will have to adapt.
One of the questions is, while it has always been difficult and a tug of war between the corporates and the governments and some of the policymakers to ensure that there are checks and balances in terms of the power that is maintained, and in this dialogue is even more critical when it comes to AI, right? One thing that has always worked, especially, is incentivization of some of the things that are being done, right? So if let's say there is harm being done through something, let's say, for example, when it came to climate change, right? There is a lot of companies and their practices which were harmful for the environment. So that's when there was a lot of incentivization on some of the things that are being done, so that they cut on their carbon emission or invest in carbon neutral projects or initiatives. Do you think something like this can work out in terms of AI, so that there is, have you come across any cool examples of this kind of an initiative?
I guess it's possible if you have companies that are behaving badly or not in a common interest, that they would have to contribute to some AI for good projects, like, for instance, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, that they have projects on. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of grassroots enthusiasm for AI for good and climate change in particular. Even without much prompting, there are always people, researchers, forming these alliances and pushing this agenda and trying to build better tools for AI for good. And that's really great if it's happening from bottom up and because people are actually already incentivized, they believe that this is the right thing to do, then it's most likely going to have an impact. So at least right now, I don't think we really need interventions, government interventions and incentivization specific to that, because it's already happening. We do need, of course, some regulation, as regulations are coming out. And actually, that's something that the AI companies themselves have been pushing. So there would be some kind of checks that can be done, metrics, to make sure that AI is actually deployed with some knowledge of what effects it can have and these harms it can have. That's a little bit different level, though. That's like we have to follow up on what the effects of our technology is, rather than we are working on this because it's good for humankind, which is a different kind of a motivation and incentivization.
Of all the research that you have done lately in terms of responsible AI and some of the things that you are observing evolving in the industry, where does the research need to be focused? Where are some of the areas of interest that are very critical for us as humankind to focus on, to ensure that we scale AI responsibly and it does not play the exact opposite role of that?
The biggest challenges are really people, that we have to get government decision makers to understand the science and listen to it when it actually makes a difference. Those are much harder challenges, but there are technical challenges as well. And obviously one of them is trustworthiness. So the LLMs hallucinate, and we have to build a better understanding of how we can trust these models. They need to estimate their own confidence, for instance, give alternatives. And that's technology that needs to be developed. And lots of people are working on it. Maybe we'll crack it, but that's essential. And anything when you deploy, you have to know how well you can trust it. And there are also now approaches that put multiple AI systems together, where maybe one of them will suggest a decision, and another one will critique it and try to identify the risks and biases. And then in this kind of a multi-agent interaction, we can come up with a better answer, one that's actually vetted already by AI before it's actually implemented and found to be responsible and maybe trustworthy.
What is the role of AI for good, and does it play as a substitute to the responsible nature of AI that we need to build in corporates? And how can every AI be looked at from an AI for good perspective from that lens?
Most of the time it means projects that have not necessarily a business objective, but something that helps the humankind in general. And those are projects, like I said, that you might have a company build something that it's selling and that helps businesses do better. And then another project that might be, making data available so that we can get better medical diagnosis or distribute food for equally or more efficiently or whatever it is. So they are projects that don't necessarily, in my opinion, when we talk about AI for good, it's projects that don't necessarily have an immediate monetary value, but they clearly have a societal value. And I think it's great if we can get the private companies also to contribute to those. So they wouldn't have to be, say, government run or something. Data is available at the very high level aggregate form. And if we build such systems, we actually have to reach the people who are using them. So we are making that's actually all of AI applications, making somebody's work easier, better, empowering them. Rather than trying to replace them or make recommendations that are impossibly high level. I mean, a politician wouldn't necessarily follow it because it's so complicated, a decision to make. So we have to understand what the decision makers are struggling with and what power they have to change it. And then AI should operate at that level. And that means we have to get data from that level. So a lot of these AI for good projects are perhaps currently, at least the initial ones, are too high level. It's United Nations data at the level of states, and it doesn't really get to who's actually irrigating the crops. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in understanding where the effect can be actually had and get the data so that we can build systems that help actual people.
On that note, thank you so much, Risto, for making the time. This was a fun conversation.
Yeah, very much.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Kashyap. Enjoy it.